Today we're going to lay the groundwork for Drive Thru Jazz Theory. Today we're going to talk about the fact that there's only 3 chords in jazz. We're going to talk about the 3 pillars that hold up the giant tower of jazz. And we're going to talk about jazz articulations. And again, this is going to go really fast, so hold on to your hats, it's just Drive Thru. Okay, there's only 3 chords in jazz, and when I say that, I'm totally lying. 2 is always minor, minor is always 2. 5 is always dominant, dominant's always 5. 1 is always major, major is always 1. That's the 3 chords in jazz. Let me prove it to you. Play the concert B-flat scale. Ready? Go. Now, play the 2 that comes from that weight. Jazz is a very thick, complex, rich, and beautiful art form because they have extensions in jazz. Like, it would never just be... It would be 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13... Oh, that's so much of a... Wait, I'll do it in concert B-flat. Oh, what a great sound. However, for today, we're going to limit it to just the 7. All these chords are going to stop at these 7. No upper extensions. Here we go. Play the 2 that comes from the concert B-flat scale. Play the arpeggio. Ready, go. In every major scale, the 2 is always going to be minor. Minor is always going to be 2. Now let's move to the 5, the dominant. Play the dominant up to the 7 that comes from that scale. So you can see the flat 7 is just a function of the major scale. Now let's play the major 1. It's going to be up to the major 7. Ready, go. Okay. 2 is always minor, minor is always 2, 5 is always dominant, dominant is always 5, 1 is always major, major is always 1. For our purposes at the beginning here, that's the rules. There are 3 pillars that hold up the giant tower of jazz. The first pillar is the 12-bar blues. The next pillar is rhythm changes based on George Gershwin's I Got Rhythm. And the third pillar is tunes. Now there are hundreds of thousands of tunes out there, but if you want to make a tune, here's what you do. You take the 12-bar blues and you take rhythm changes and all the techniques that you have learned and can learn over those 2 vehicles, and you put them in a bag, and you let an 800-pound gorilla beat the snot out of that bag. Then you pour it out, and what comes out is a tune. A tune can be created by combining the techniques you learn on blues and rhythm changes. So, the 3 giant towers of jazz that we'll discuss in this course: blues, rhythm changes, and tunes. And again, when I say all these things, I am lying. The tower of jazz is infinite. We're just talking about the bass here. Finally, let's talk a little bit about jazz articulation. In a nutshell, jazz articulation is, first of all, very legato. You never stop blowing air. Jazz is a very legato art form until it's not. But if you were a little dude about that big, living in the back of your throat, when you played a running bop line, it would, the air would like blow your hair forward and your hat would go sailing out your nostrils because it's always air. There's always air. You never stop blowing air. Don't stop. Don't do it. Keep blowing air. When you tongue, jazz is not the notes you play. Jazz is the way you play the notes you play. You'll hear me say that 1,000 times because, oh, how true it is. Jazz is not the notes you play. Jazz is the way you play the notes you play. Start by tonguing the first note. Then you tongue every other note, all on the upbeats, all on the ands. And every time you tongue, you give a little pulse. On the last note, you'll give a bop. That's the party hat. When you're reading, the bop is about 3/4 to 82.6% of the note filled with sound, cut off sharply at the end with a little bit of silence. It is not staccato, it is short but fat, like me. So, take a listen. Always air. Tongue the beginning. Tongue every other note, and then at the end, put dat. Here is the generic lick. Remember we said these licks are, I guess they're real licks, but they are generic. They are illustrative of the underlying form. Here is our generic lick that we're going to build up to. Take a listen. Did you hear it? You blow air the whole time. You tongue every other one. When you tongue, you pulse. And on the very end, you give a bop. Okay. The groundwork for Drive Thru Theory. 3 things. First of all, there's only 3 chords in jazz. The 2 is always minor, minor is always 2, 5 is always dominant, dominant is always 5, 1 is always major, major is always 1. I'm lying, but for now, that's the rules. There are 3 pillars that hold up the giant tower of jazz. Blues, 12-bar blues, rhythm changes, and tunes, of which there are millions, which are comprised of rhythm changes and blues put together. And again, I'm lying, but for now, that's true. And when you jazz articulate, jazz is legato until it's not, so you blow all the time. And when you blow, you can tongue every other one, starting on the second note. When you tongue, give a pulse, and I didn't even talk about ghost notes, we'll get there. And on the last note, that, which is approximately 3/4 of the note cut off sharply square at the end. And this is why it's Drive Thru Jazz Theory. Any one of those things could have been an entire class, but they're not. This is just Drive Thru. And I'd like a small half diminished for dessert. Okay, I'll see you in there. Good luck!